Hey guys, welcome to the Dawg House Podcast. On this week's episode, we got clean old-fashioned hate as Georgia goes on the road against Georgia Tech in Atlanta, finished up the season. And we got great returning guests, Angry Scott and casual fan Kris, as we look at the big-time matchup of Ohio State at Michigan. Also, we look at the Jim Harbaugh saga and what continues with that. Make sure to press the like button, subscribe, and comment. That'll really help us out. OG guest, good friends of mine from last year. So we got Angry Scott and casual fan Kris, big huge Ohio State Buckeye fans. How we doing today, boys?
Doing good. What's up, buddies?
Doing fantastic. How are you? How are you there, baby driver?
I'm doing pretty well there, Angry Scott. Jumping right into it, we're going to look at the Ohio State versus Michigan game, the game of the week. It's going to be game day, Ann Arbor. We're going to touch on a little bit of Georgia taking care of business last week against Tennessee in Knoxville, 38-20, 38 to 10. I didn't think they would jump on them like that. I will say this: we're spotting everybody 7 points, as you noticed. First play from scrimmage, 75-yard touchdown by Jalen Wright. I think we've done that 6 straight games. Not sure what the reason is, but after that, I think we held them to, I think it was like 54 yards for 20 from 22 carries. So just kind of locked them down like a Kimura or a guillotine choke, MMA terms. But
Yeah.
thought Georgia looked really good, beating them on Rocky Top. Carson Beck, 24 of 30 for 298, 3 touchdowns. Kendall Milton got the run game going. Brock Bowers did his thing. Great to have him back, 60 yards and a touchdown. Rosemary Jack Sanker, Rojak, had 91 yards and a touchdown. And then Dylan Bell, 3 for 1, ran. I think he had 1 carry and caught 5 balls for 90 yards and a touchdown. Ladd McConkey was out with the injury, but great win. 3rd straight top 20 team. 28 straight wins. I think we've now won 43 out of 44. Great in the Kirby Smart era. And I believe this is the 3rd straight year where we went 8-0 in SEC conference play. So, yeah, definitely a great win. And we got Georgia Tech and the Nerds this week. But first off, boys, what did you think about Georgia versus Tennessee?
Well, yeah, I haven't seen very many Georgia games because I know they've just now got into the 3rd game of their season, right? Because a lot of it's been. Are you back to the preseason now, Georgia Tech? Because I mean, you've actually played someone with a pulse. So we're going to talk about another team, Michigan, who's finally got into their actual season after preseason. But I've got a couple questions for you, Trey. What year is this of the Kirby Smart era?
Yeah, this is the eighth year of the Kirby Smart era. His first year was 2016. I believe this is the eighth year, if I can count straight. So, yeah, 8th year.
So if this is his 8th year, he played in the national championship, the one you lost to Bama. How many years in was he at that point in time?
Dose, 2nd year.
Okay. So,
Played in 3, won 2 of them.
He didn't win his first national championship until his 6th year, then obviously 6th and 7th. So, I mean, now the other question for you is, are you surprised that Brock Bowers came back?
Yes, I was, because originally when it came out, I was thinking maybe the SEC championship game. The reason why I was doing that is everybody was saying 4 to 6 weeks. Everybody's been having the tightrope surgery. Everybody kind of went back to, they did say Tua, I think, came back in 2018 in like 27, 28 days. And I didn't want to rush the kid back. And there was also this fear is let's say Georgia would have dropped a game and didn't play in the SEC championship game. He might not even ever have come back. He might just say, hey, screw it and go to the draft. But kid really wants to play team first kind of guy. So, yeah, I'm really surprised. But, they said they did all the precautions and he looked good in practice. So I guess he's ready to go.
I mean, it's really, because if you haven't won that national championship, so that's probably the reason he came back, right? Oh, wait, no, you've won back-to-back national championships. So that's why I'm so surprised for him to come back. And, hey, man, more power to him. The reason I'm also asking about Kirby Smart is usually when you see guys win national championships, it's usually earlier in their career. Urban Meyer won his national championship 3rd year at Ohio State, 2nd and 4th at Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what was Saban? Was he like his 3rd year at Bama or something like that, won the national championship? So a guy he played for one, right, his 2nd year, but then to actually win at 6 and 7. You know it's his program. There ain't no doubt about that. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But the other thing that I've been meaning to ask you is if this Georgia team from 2023, would they beat the 2022 team, and would they beat the 2021 team? What is the best Georgia team out of those 3 years?
I think that's a great question. I do think this is probably the lesser of the three, but I will say the best defense was 2021, 2022. I think we just got kind of hot at the end. I know I'll still go back to you guys. I know that was heartbreaking for you guys, but you guys I thought were the better team in the Peach Bowl that time. We just got kind of hot at the end. You guys were beating us well into the fourth quarter. And we just got, I'll say, kind of lucky. It kind of reminded me of some of those Bama games where we got so close and we got our heart broken. We just kind of were on the other side of the win that time. But 2021 was to me the complete team. But I will say this team's trending with the offense. That this might be the most explosive offense we've had, and our defense is good, but it's not great as 21 and 22. But Carson Beck and you got more explosive receivers. To me, the offense is more explosive. But if that makes sense.
I think one of the best things Georgia has going for it, you're getting hot at the right time. I also say that same thing about Ohio State. And just to touch on that Peach Bowl from 2022, not that I wake up in a cold sweat at night, when thinking about it, that's never happened. But yes, we did outplay you. Yes, Georgia's a hell of a team. Yes, the mistakes that Ohio State had in their secondary, including another busted coverage that led to a late score, hurt us. So this defense this year of Ohio State is much better. And even though that was definitely a targeting, let's be honest, that was definitely a targeting on Marvin Harrison. He was out in the fourth quarter. Garbage. We still had a chance to win it at the end, and the guy missed the field goal right before the stroke of midnight. But nothing. Hey man, it's nothing against. That's just what happens. And y'all played a hell of a game still. And let's just say TCU wasn't exactly much of a challenge in the national championship, right?
I agree. To me, the actual national championship game was the Peach Bowl. I agree.
Yep. Worst way to kick off the year, too, by the way.
What's that?
I said worst way to kick off the year.
It was. He goes, Dogs win. Happy New Year. I was in the bar just like this. Woo! So, yeah. The better matchup to me would have been Michigan if the way Angry Scott says didn't choke on the chicken bone with TCU. I don't know how they lost that game, but it is what it is.
Especially when they have all the signals of what they're going to go and call, right? How they
so
lose
much game prep.
Exactly.
Cheating bastards.
We're definitely going to dive. We'll dive deep into that, I'm sure.
Well, I think the reason you invited us on, Trey, is so we can do a 3-hour review of Ohio State versus Minnesota, right?
That's correct. Deep dive. Hey, first
dive.
Hey, first off, we'll touch on this real quick, and we can get your thoughts. Clean old fashioned hate. Georgia at Georgia Tech. We call them the nerds. Some crazy stats here for you just to throw out. Georgia hasn't lost in Atlanta since 1999. They haven't lost in regulation, I think, since 1989. So pretty much has dominated. It's usually a pro-Georgia crowd because it is a smaller stadium. Tech is bowl eligible this year. 24-point spread. I was looking at some stats. So they're 131st against the rush. I think 104th in total defense. Haynes King, who was a transfer for Texas A&M, is pretty explosive. 26 touchdowns, 15 picks. He can run around a little bit. And they do have Buster Faulkner, who's a former OC from us, so they kind of know our team. Anyway, I want them to get in, get out. I'm going to go real quick pick here, 38-14. Hey, they might even score on the first drive to get them excited. But I hope we get in, start sitting the starters, probably third quarter, because we got, of course, the big game with Bama coming up. 38-14, get out with no injuries, and punch them in the mouth, and let's go 12-0. What's your pick on this game, if you guys even care? Because I know you guys have a bigger game earlier in the day.
Is there any other games? Is there any other games on Saturday that I'm aware of? I didn't even know nobody else was playing.
Yeah, it is.
I would be shocked if Georgia lost to Georgia Tech. Little piece of advice though: if you are happen to be in a one-score game and you can just take a knee at the end of it, right? Maybe you should do that. Unlike your boy there, the head coach at Miami, former Oregon Ducks head coach, was it Cristobal?
That's right.
That's that. So if you're somehow in a in a tight game at the end, just take the damn knee. So I think what's the spread on that game, Trey?
24 points.
Have the Dogs covered this year?
Actually, the last 2 games we covered, I think we're around like 4-6-1. We haven't done well in covering. These been some big spreads, but we covered the last 2 games. We didn't cover the Missouri game recently.
Dogs by 26. How about that?
Okay. How about you, casual fan Kris? Any thoughts here?
Believe it or not, I have not watched a single minute of Georgia football. I do know they are, by some way, shape, or form, they're still the #1 team in the country, arguably. But first off, how are you guys a 7:30 game? I feel like there's another game that should be the night game.
I will say this. This game is usually 12 o'clock. This is the first time it's been a night game since 2013. All the Georgia fans were shocked. Everybody was like, man, I had other plans. I wanted to watch other games, Thanksgiving weekend. It's at 7:30. As you know, it's all – I guess it was ESPN or ABC. I'm not sure of the channel. But anyway, I was surprised as anyone, to be honest.
Yeah. But, hey, either way, I think the Dogs they'll pull it out, obviously. Just bundle up a little bit. I think it gets a little chilly in Atlanta at night, right?
It is ABC, so it's all it's all about Disney and ABC, man. They control it.
That's right.
By chilly, are you talking like 67, 68 outside?
No, it's gonna be 40s actually. I looked at it. I think it's like low of 43 that night. It's kind of nippy for Georgia standards.
See,
there you go.
Yeah, I'd say we'll do 34-9.
9. All right, 3 field goals.
On the nerds. Dogs with the nerds up pretty bad.
Gotcha. And then we're about to jump into the main event, the big game of the week, the games they call it, Michigan versus Ohio State. But before that, I think these boys might need some Viva Tequila Seltzer.com to get them ready for the game. I mean, I think you guys need to crack one of these open around 11:45. My personal favorite is watermelon. To get the discount for that, Dawg House 20 for 20% off. Dawg House 20. Also, I sent these guys some Viva Tequila. What are your personal favorites? And you guys can be honest out of the flavors that I sent to you. Anything you guys like?
My personal favorite is the watermelon and the huckleberry.
There you go. How about you, Kris?
I'm your huckleberry.
I know you have some. I'll be a huckleberry. There you go.
Oh yeah, I like me some of that huckleberry and huckleberry, watermelon, and elderberry. Close third.
Yeah, I think that grapefruit, man, it's out there on the island, kind of. It's out there by itself.
I still have. It's not for my taste buds.
Yeah.
But I bet it's good though. I bet there's an audience for it.
There you go.
Get you some.
Again, that's Dawg House 20 for 20% off on VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. Great sponsor on the podcast this year. All right, boys, jumping right into it. The game. Ohio State at Michigan. Also, I just read I just threw this up there. I don't know if you knew. This is the first time, I think it's 3-point spread, Michigan has actually been favored in the last 5 meetings. You guys know that?
I do.
There you go. 3-point spread, and I'm going to just let you guys handle it. Jim Harbaugh and all the accusations, whatever's going on, steel signing. I know you guys.
It's not accusations. It's actually true, and they have a bunch of evidence. If you shoot someone on video and everyone sees it, you're a murderer.
I know.
Desmond Howard, are you listening? I know you listen to this every week. Michigan, they are not the victim. Don't pretend that they are. Well, I think, Trey, I guess really, instead of a 3-hour review of the Minnesota-Ohio State game, how about I give you a quick 30 seconds, okay?
I did not watch hardly any of that game. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
That was also why is this at night? Okay, this is senior night, but I was like, okay, nobody get hurt, no targeting penalties. Let's just make sure everybody's okay for the second half. Or, if you get a targeting penalty in the second half, you can't play the first half. So no one got hurt. There's no targeting. We kicked some ass. We got some other people to get some playing times. And then, I was like, in the third quarter, I'm like, okay, is it time for Michigan yet? So we went ahead. And we actually have our head coach because he's not a cheater. So you could see that on the field. We were ready. As if you watch any of the Michigan-Maryland game, they should have lost that game. I'm talking about Michigan. So we'll see, because now you're starting to see those game day decisions Michigan not have. Now, Kris, did you watch the Ohio State-Maryland game?
Of course. I feel like it's been a while, but yeah. On the Maryland game, we should have blown it open a little bit more, but they kept it competitive for sure.
I'm talking about Ohio State, Minnesota.
Oh,
not Michigan, Maryland.
Okay, so much like you, I'm glad we got out with no injuries. I feel like we hit a skid with some pretty tough injuries with our guys. So I'm just glad we got out of there with some quality snaps, no injuries, no big penalties, things like that. And also really glad to see Henderson. I feel like he's getting his stride back. So really good, really refreshing to see him like hitting holes is with the quickness that I feel like I haven't seen in about a year and a half. So
right,
super happy about that. Quarterback play, we can talk about that later, but
that's what I'm trying to figure out. Who is our backup right now? Devin Brown was the backup, and he got hurt because he's kind of a mobile quarterback, so he kind of got hurt. Now he hasn't been on the field since. So they've got Lincoln. I can't even think of Lincoln's last. Keen Holtz from South Dakota, who is now like a freshman. So I guess he's the backup. So even though Kyle, he's just a JAG, you know what JAG stands for? Just another guy.
Just a guy.
That's what Scott said. He texted me that one time. Just another dude, man.
Well, I'm stealing that from Steve Smith. So, Steve, when I run into you in the greater Charlotte area, please don't punch me in the face because that's from you, not me. Okay. So, that being said, he is just another guy, and we'll kind of go and talk about, I'll give you some of my thoughts on it. Trey, one of the reasons this is such a big deal is Ohio State's, that we've lost the last 2 years, that Ohio State's dominance. If you ask me any year over the last 25 years, and go ahead and test me, ask me any year over the last 25 years, I'll tell you whether Ohio State or Michigan won. Okay. I will tell you this. The last time that we lost at home against Michigan outside of last year was 2000. Now, a little story about that as I date myself. I was at that game, but we had, when I was in school, we actually had paper tickets. Now, for all the millennials listening, paper is this thing they used to go and print, okay?
Oh, wow.
And you would go and you'd have to, they didn't have it on the phone because we didn't have a smartphone. I don't even think I had a cell phone. Okay, so they would go and just like stamp every ticket. So I lost my ticket because it was the same ticket for all 4 games. They just stamped it. I lost my ticket the second game of the year. So I had to then go and find a way to go to the game, right? And I'm not going to miss the Michigan game. So a buddy of mine, my roommate, he actually went and he worked at Ohio Stadium. So he's like, well, here you go. I'll give you this shirt. Just act like, if you get there early enough, you could just walk right in. So I had on like part of the maintenance crew type of thing, people working around the stadium, red shirt, walk in. I had to get there at 6:30 in the morning. And as people know, they have this thing in Ohio State called kegs and eggs. So people already tailgate. So I walked right in. Now you're asking, what did you do, Scott, from 6:30 till 10? I walked around and air quotes act like I was working. So I looked like every other construction worker there, maybe spend some time in the bathroom, drop the kids off at the pool. You see what I'm saying? Like I had to kill a lot of time. But luckily, I got into that game and I didn't get arrested. And then we lost. So, anyways, that was the last time outside of last year that Ohio State lost to Michigan. Beyond that, go ahead, Trey, over the last 25 years, just name a year and I'll tell you whether Ohio State or Michigan won. Just ask me one.
2005.
2005, Ohio State won at Michigan. Okay, give me 2 more. Just test me.
2012.
2012, Urban Meyer's first year. We didn't play in a bowl game, but Ohio State won that game. One more.
2017.
Okay. That was when Michigan was on their great revenge tour, but it all ended when we kicked their ass. I want to say, you can check the score of the game. I want to say we had 62, and I don't know what they had, but Don Brown, I want to say, was the defensive coordinator for Michigan. And so we went and, of course, kicked their ass again. So why is this such a big deal? Since 2000, okay, Ohio State lost in 2000, and then the Jim Tressel era started. Jim Tressel was there for 2001 to 2010. He lost one time in 2003. Okay, Luke Fickell was their interim coach in 2011. Used to be at Cincinnati, now head coach up in Wisconsin. We lost in the interim year at Michigan. Urban Meyer never lost one, 7-0. And now Ryan Day is 1-2. So this is the first time that you have an Ohio State coach in the last, 23 years now that had a losing record against Michigan. Now, they didn't play in 2020 because they pushed out during COVID. And we would have beat their asses then? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Beat the brakes off
and
them.
then all of a sudden, hey, Jim Harbaugh's, a genius, and maybe that had to do something with cheating. I don't know. Maybe it's just a big coincidence. But that's why it's such a big game for Ryan Day, because we've dominated for so long, So, I mean, a couple of my thoughts on this game. Our defense is substantially better than last year. Okay. We'll see how it is if we do make it to the playoffs and play against somebody like Georgia or what I'll say is an elite offense. But the defense is now the strong part of Ohio State's team. Okay. The punter, as long as he isn't faking punts and doing dumb stuff like that, the punter's fine. The field goal kicker's great. I'm going to politely say I wish I had him last year, right before midnight versus Georgia. Beyond that, I think he's only missed 1 or 2 field goals all year. Offensively, best wide receivers in the nation. Travion Henderson is a difference maker. So right now, your main running back is Travion Henderson. He was banged up, did not play in the game last year. You have Chip Trainum. He's kind of a bigger guy up the middle. And then Dallin Hayden is kind of the third guy, which they haven't played him very much, but he always finds some seams, and Dowland's looked good. It's just one of those, they wanted to see if they could redshirt him. So I guess if you play in only 4 games, you can still get a redshirt. Which my thoughts on, I don't think the postseason counts for what it's worth, but my thoughts on in the transfer portal era, you should not go and be redshirting anyone. Now, Mayan Williams, who was one of our running backs last year, he's out for the year. So the running backs, there's really, they really started to come on with him. Offensive line is better than what it was week 1, but that's still a concern of mine. We're going to see what Ohio State's offensive line is against Michigan's D line. That might be a challenge. And then Kyle, man, I really wish CJ Stroud right now is tearing up the NFL, and I really wish that we still had CJ, but I can't blame him for making millions of dollars and, being potentially definitely the rookie of the year, maybe even MVP in the NFL. So I think some of my other takeaways, and Kris, I want to get some of your thoughts on this. I think the most important thing is if everybody watches the end of the Ohio State Notre Dame game when Ryan Day called out Lou Holtz, you may have noticed that, and he was very passionate for, of course, at that point in time, is don't play into this whole narrative. Don't try to out-tough anyone. Just win the damn game. Okay, you don't need to be Michigan. You don't need to be a dump truck. You don't need to be a pickup truck. If you've got a Ferrari or yes, a Maserati Marv, if as compared to Marv is what do they call them? There's Maserati Marv, and then there's Honda. There is Kyle, the Honda Accord, right? So Accord. So even though Hondas are reliable cars, right? So
he's like a Camry, man.
Yeah, I like it more. Kyle, the Honda McCord. Okay, so that's why I got confused when I was talking there. But he's just another guy, man. So what I'm getting back to is if you have the sports car, dude, just run by him. Okay, that was one thing that we did when Ohio State played Georgia last year. Is we actually went ahead and played Ohio State football, which right now is just do what you do better than the other guy. Don't try to out-tough anybody. The one thing I'll say is Ohio State does play great historically in big games as underdog. You saw that last year against Georgia, which case we were a bigger underdog last year. So it is one of those, to make a UFC boxing analogy, what do they say? Styles make fights, So if you're a great striker, don't take the guy to the ground. If you've got great jiu-jitsu, don't strike with them. If you go back to when Conor McGregor was fighting Khabib, I remember Khabib, and I'm going to get off track here with the UFC fight. He was in there striking with Conor a little bit. I remember his coach got him in the corner. He's like, don't strike with this guy. Take him down. So the thing is, don't get caught up in that. Do what you do better than anybody else. And I think Ohio State's going to go. I think they're going to win the game. I have a couple other comments, but Kris, let me go ahead and get some of your thoughts on the game.
Well, let's start from the top. Just like you said with your boy Kyle McCord, I'm concerned only if we ask of him to do more than just the simple things. Like, I think the key to this game is it's going to be the ground game, getting Henderson going, offensive line, just engaging with Michigan's defensive front. I think it's going to be an uphill. What's the right phrase? Tough sledding for the offensive line. We've matured in that regard, but are we ready for Michigan's big boys? We'll see. I think it's going to be tough, but if we can get them going, if we can get the run game going, get Henderson going, we're going to have a really good chance. But the key is we cannot put big pressure situations on McCord. I think that's just that can be disastrous. Just watching him all year, if you give him time, he can do whatever you want him to do. but he just seems to get rattled really easily when the heat turns up in that pocket. So again, Marvin's going to get free. He's going to do what he does against Michigan's defense. But can Kyle get it to him? Can he remain clear-headed to get everything to his guys? That's the big thing that I'm really concerned about. Receivers, we're going to be good. Cade Stover, he's going to eat. Like, he's going to be the great safety valve and the great blocker that he's been all year. Like, Cade's going to ball. Ibuka, I think he's going to find his way to get open. Marv, he's going to either get double teamed and make other opportunities for the rest of the crew. But it's just, can Kyle withstand any pressure that Michigan brings at him? From Michigan's
go ahead.
Go
ahead, Kris. Well, the other thing I was going to say about Kyle is I hear what you're saying of him getting rattled. But, I mean, he did. When we needed a big drive out of him against Notre Dame, he did come through. The thing that concerns me more, even against Minnesota, when Ohio State won 37-3, is I still seeing passes that are thrown behind people. He's not on time. He's not leading. He's no C.J. Stroud. Now, the thing is, what was really going to happen is I go back to who was going to be Ohio State's quarterback. He's currently the starter on Texas. Okay. Quinn Ewers, of course, I'm talking about. He was going to go and he came into Ohio State his senior year, right? Mm-hmm. And when he came in his senior year, that was to get $1 million. I can't blame him. Then he said, "Hey, I'm going to be stuck, behind C.J. Stroud for 2 years, so he transferred." Especially in the transfer portal era, you don't have to wait out a year, so I can't blame him for that. And I don't blame Kyle, the Honda McCord, But the thing is,
no, he's making use of his talents. He's doing the best he can. It's just with the talent that the rest of this team's got around him. I need more from him. Like, he's got to step up to the skill level that the rest of the guys are playing at. Same with the O-line. Like, they've been working. I've seen improvement, but we've got weapons, dude. The defense, like you said, they have been playing their butts off. They have been stellar, right? We've got upperclassmen. We finally got the defense to, I feel, at a great level. It's just offense. We're missing that outstanding quarterback to match the rest of the outstanding squad. Now, I'm not poo-pooing on the offense at all. I'm not poo-pooing on Kyle McCord. I think if we get a little bit better play out of him, awesome. But
good
keys to the game, keep it out of his hands, just run it down their throats and let the playmakers make plays.
All right, I have a question real quick, guys. Just being the neutral out of SEC guy. All right, so watching the game the last 2 years, can you guys stop the run? They're going to do that. They're going to come at you with a quorum, and then they're going to have J.J. McCarthy, even though he struggled recently, try to hit the big play. It's at home. Looks like the weather might be 36, 37. You guys should be used to that. So can you stop the run this year? Because they struggled the last 2 years. And, that's going to be the big thing, because I think they're going to try to line it up and run it at you, because that whole thing in the Penn State game, they didn't even run a pass play in the second half. I was shocked. What did they run, like 30-something straight times? So yeah, I think you stop the run, you guys will be okay.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was actually something I was going to talk to you about. I think the most important thing right now, you talk about Michigan. Michigan does have a good defense. Okay, they didn't look so great last Saturday, against Maryland. Mm-hmm. However, they do have a great defense. And I'll still say, look, man, J.J. McCarthy is a huge douchebag. And I don't say that about every quarterback, but he is a huge douche, okay? Now, is he better than Kyle McCord? Yes, he is, okay?
Oh, wow.
It still doesn't change the fact that he's a douche and that he's not – you can say whatever you want about USC. He is no Caleb Williams, okay? You can say whatever you want to. He's not a Michael Penix or anybody like that, okay? So he's not a difference maker. Is he better than what he was last year? Yes. I think the key that is we line up to stop the run, because those are guys, Blake Corum and who's a Donovan Edwards, that can beat you. So you got to line up, and then I think we need to put our wide receivers on islands, which scares me a little bit. But the thing is, this year I think we've only had one play that we've given up that's been over 40 yards, because that's something that's hurt us in the past over these last couple of years, is that we've been giving up the big 80-yard chunk plays and everything like that. So now JJ can show you that he can beat you, but by all means, change up the thing. I think the other thing that I've noticed that Ryan Day's been doing is he's been trying to keep guys healthy. Okay, so last year Travion didn't make it because he's been banged up these last couple of years. Didn't even make it to the game. So he kept him out a couple years. He kept him out a couple games until he didn't come back to he was healthy. Emeka Ibuka, he got hurt in the Purdue game. He kept him out for a little bit. Tommy Eichenberg. I don't know if Tommy's going to come back or not, but he's our leader on defense, and he's been out the last couple of games. So what I noticed is some of these guys that have been banged up, he's looking at even the Penn State game, and it's like, you know what? James Franklin, he's still the head coach of Penn State. Yeah, we can beat them. Okay. So right now, though, you need all your guys to beat Michigan. You need all your guys. And if you make it to the Big Ten championship game, you're going to play Iowa. It shouldn't be as, might have a letdown, but it shouldn't be as big a game. You're going to need everybody else. You're going to need everybody to beat Georgia and everything. I think the important thing is if we play Ohio State football, and to your point, to your question there, Trey, if we can stop the run. I think the Bucs win by 12, man. I got the score. I know we're not giving scores yet, but I got the Bucs 32-20. The key is we got to play Ohio State football.
Gotcha.
Gotta.
Real quick, Kris, what you got? Score prediction.
Score prediction, I will say 24-21. Bucs win it.
Nice.
Gash them. We again, big plays on the defense. I think Dallin Hayden might get some sneaky catches because this is game number 4. Remember, he can still keep his red shirt by playing 4 games or less. So this is lucky number 4. So I think we get a little bit more of Hayden as our secret weapon, secret sauce.
Well, I have a couple other comments. So sure. Harbaugh, one of his comments that he made a couple years ago is some guys were born on third and they think they hit a triple. So that is, of course, a reference to Ryan Day taking over for Urban Meyer. What I would say is some people choke at big games like Michigan versus Georgia in 2021, Michigan versus TCU in 2022. They start at 0-5 against Ohio State, and the only way they can win is by cheating because they're pieces of shit. Right. And they drink a lot of whole milk. Okay, and you pushed out of the 2020 game because we would have kicked your ass then again. And then the thing that bothers me is I actually, dare I say, now I'm a Paul Feinbaum fan, and I've watched some of the Paul Feinbaum versus Desmond Howard. The comments now, it's funny how, these are only accusations, due process. Well, first off, this isn't real court. This is fake football court, okay, which is important to me and a lot of other people, but this is not a murder trial. And if you have all the evidence, and they said, wow, there's overwhelming evidence, don't give me this whole, we'll penalize you later and we'll vacate, a national championship like USC and Reggie Bush from like 2005. It's too late then. And so the thing is, you've got, if only Ohio State had some person that was on the main stage. Can you think of anyone, Kris? Because every time I watch game day, you can't tell that anyone even went to Ohio State. You can tell Desmond is definitely a Michigan guy. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, do I think about this of all Michigan people? I actually watched Jake Butt on the Big Ten Network, former Michigan guy, and he was, dare I say, somewhat objective during the game. Now you compare that to the way Desmond is, and I was just like, it's night and day difference, man. And so the thing of it is, yes, I'm glad Michigan found out we're cheaters, and the only way you won this game is by cheating. Now, the thing is, could you win this game without cheating? Sure. But you went 0-5 against Ohio State. So you wanted to leave no doubt. And you can't tell me that you didn't know anything about it. Okay. Or you didn't care. Hey, you got the information. Connor Stallions and him selling, yes, refurbished vacuum cleaner. Speaking of which, did one of you guys buy one of those refurbished vacuum cleaners from Connor Stallions?
I did. He was at my door one day. I did. Gave me a great deal.
So look, but stupidity is not an excuse for why this happened. I didn't know anything about it. You're supposed to know everything that happens in your program. And I remember, and let's be honest, Urban had his own issues, both Ohio State and Florida. However, I remember when Urban left Ohio State and Harbaugh made some comment, there's always just something with that guy. I'm like, well, what do you have to say now, Jimmy? Okay? Because you want to know what I think. If we go back to the 2020 game, I don't think it was COVID. I think you had a yeast infection and you pussed out. That's why. And you found out the only way that you can win big games and not choke in them is by cheating. That's what I think.
Hey, I will say this, Georgia fan, they did ask Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart said, I didn't notice anything. But back to that, they had short-term turnaround because they didn't really know they were going to play Georgia till like a month into it. So they didn't have a chance to schedule all the games. Same thing with TCU. So I'm just saying those 2 games they lost in the last 2 years were the least amount of games they could prepare for. So I think it is a thing,
Well, the other thing I'll say is they changed. If you go back and look, the week right after they played State, look at some of the comments that I'm talking about the Michigan brass put out, and it was a 180-degree turn. I mean, Harbaugh was going to talk. in court, and he still watches a lot of Judge Judy, so he was going to have his moment in court. Well, all of a sudden, we just accept the penalty. Well, you accept the penalty because you cheated, you're guilty, and here's all the proof. And then all of a sudden, it was like, yeah, we don't have anything to say. I mean, what are your thoughts on it, Kris? I mean, you're definitely cheaters. I mean, I'm glad that, God forbid, because the NCAA is going to get around to penalizing them in 2032 or something. So I'm glad there actually was something that affects it now. And I do think that it's going to make a difference the third game of the year when you have somebody who's your offensive coordinator and not the head coach on the field.
Yeah, there's definitely something to it, and it's definitely going to be a difference maker come Saturday, having their offensive line coach instead of their the main scapegoat up there. But I mean,
it was a linebacker coach.
Okay, yeah. Close enough. Who cares? But I mean, look, it's all the coaches have this gentleman's agreement in place, right? Look, anything that you see on the field at the game, cool, you can figure it out live in real time. But everyone does it, right? It's an understanding amongst coaches. You got this gentleman's agreement, but no one went above and beyond to say, like, okay, I'm going to send somebody specifically to games and pointing directly at your sideline. So for anybody to try and defend that, it just shows how much Michigan's gotten addicted to being relevant again, right? I mean, the Rich Rod era, tough. Who was before Rich Rod?
Brady Hoke. There's Brady Hoke.
Yeah,
there was
Brady
Lloyd
Hoke.
Carr.
Brutal. I mean, Lloyd Carr, he owned us for a little bit, so don't need to go back to the Carr era. But
well,
I'm just
actually,
saying, so
I
it
believe
just speaks
in the
to
Lloyd
the desperation.
I believe in the Lloyd Carr era. You can check. I want to say he started out against Ohio State like either 5-0, 5-1, and then he left with a losing record after Tressel was there. So, I mean, you just get all these things from the Michigan men. We would never let this happen on our university. Well, how are we doing now? And to your point, Kris, if you decode these things during the game, when Ohio State played Clemson a couple years ago, they said that same type of thing. They want to call it in late. That's part of the game. It's you going ahead. It's like what the Astros did to the next level. It's what the Patriots did. So did you need to do this to win the game? Not necessarily, but you went that extra level, and that's where the problem is, So now this is the last year of the 14 playoff. So next year, I would say the game still means a lot because I think it's going to be, the new structure they put out there is that's going to be the top 4 conference champions will have a bye. Yep. And then it's going to be the top 5 conference champions get in. So that means if everybody from, the ACC, the Big 12, SEC, Big 10, if you're good, you're going to go and you're going to get in. And then there's going to be somebody else. I don't know who that would be this year, maybe Tulane or somebody from one of these other conferences. And then the rest is going to be at large. So I got to think that we'd still go and get in. So that's going to be even more fun. But, this is the last year of the 14 playoff. There hasn't been any major mix-ups besides maybe Florida State, them losing their QB, for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's tough.
I mean, one of the other things, Trey, I have a comment about some of your guys that you're going to add to the SEC, but I know the SEC had its annual FCS weekend. So, and I thought, what do they say in the SEC, Trey? They say it just means more. Is that what they say?
That's right.
Did it mean more for New Mexico State or Auburn? Because I want to say they played them $1.8 million.
That's right.
To come in and kick their ass by 3 scores, man. And it's no big deal because Auburn's got who do they have this weekend? Well, they have Alabama, right? And
Alabama.
That other game that's happening on Saturday. So
the Iron Bowl.
Next year.
But Nick Saban, Nick Saban did not like it because I think you get the whole kitchen sink thrown at him and you get a more motivated Auburn team. He hated to see that.
Yeah. Okay. Is a more motivated Auburn team going to mean anything?
It's in Jordan Hare, though, man. It means more. It's the Iron Bowl. Crazy things happen.
Paul? Now, with the additions that the Big Ten has next year, so next year in the SEC, you're adding Texas and Oklahoma, okay? Right. And the next year, Big Ten's adding USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. So we would, if you look at like the top 10, you'd see how many future Big Ten teams are. One of the things I think I hope we actually go and take from USC, UCLA. I don't know if you've ever watched that game. They both wear their home jerseys in that game. That's something that I would love to see Ohio State, Michigan do. But they both wear their home jerseys. Have you ever watched that game?
Not in the ages.
Not too much. Lincoln Riley's looking around for a new DC, and now they're 7-5. What a terrible year.
Yeah, and you know who their DC where he came from? He used to work under Urban Meyer when we had some horrible defenses. So the fact that that happened did not shock me at all. And watch, somebody else is going to hire Alex Grinch, and they're going to be like, "This guy's brilliant."
The Grinch that stole Christmas, man. No Christmas jokes. Come on, 7-5.
Easy
now
layup. Missed it.
Now, speaking about your boy Lincoln Riley, here is my hot take. Okay, and I googled it, and it looks like Paul Feinbaum actually came up with the hot take before. So I would not be surprised, man. After Clemson plays South Carolina on Saturday, this year's Lincoln Riley, I could maybe see Dabo going to Texas A&M, man.
Wow.
You know, I mean, that's you talk about. I mean, they've got to change the culture so to be a bunch of douches, which I think Texas A&M kind of fit with that with Jimbo. And you want to talk about spend a lot of money for somebody now who's won 2 national championships, not just one. I mean, who do you see being the next Texas A&M coach? I mean, do they have? Dare I say, are their expectations too high for somebody who has won a national championship? What, 1936, 1939? I mean, the record in the SEC is actually better than what it was in the Big 12. They're a middle of the road team. Every now and then they'll have. I mean, if this is what you're going to accept, you should have never fired Kevin Sumlin. I mean, what are you expecting out of Texas A&M? Who do you think their next coach is going to be?
I've been hearing Lane Train probably gets a look. Also, I've been hearing he's not a flashy name, but Jeff Traylor, who's with he's the Texas, was it TCSM or whatever. The reason why
UTSA?
Yeah, whatever that is. But the reason why is he has a really big, close relationship with all the Texas high schools on recruiting. It's all about recruiting, of course. It wouldn't be a flashy name. I'm not saying he'll get it. Lane, but I could see something out of nowhere like Dabo Sweeney or Lincoln Riley, a big splash like that. But I figured, do you guys agree with it? When they made that move, they knew they probably had a dude that they were talking to on the back end. Don't you agree? Because I just don't see him just making a move after a win, and they're still 7-4 at the time or whatever. Do you agree? Like, did they have a guy in mind, or is it just like, all right, we're done?
I gotta think
Absolutely.
so because you beat. Here's the timing of it. It's so odd. You beat Mississippi State like 52-10. Texas A&M did, and then you have your FCS weekend coming up. So and it's like a $76 million payout. So why would you do that if you didn't have somebody already lined up? But I mean, who saw the Lincoln Riley thing coming, leaving Oklahoma to go to out to USC? So my thought is Dabo, but it's one of those. You got a bunch of money at Texas A&M, you've got that, but it's like you think you should be winning national championship, but you haven't won one in a very long time, and that was a fake national championship, meaning voted on by newspapers. Not that Ohio State has any of those.
So, of course, if you're willing to drop $77 million on an exit clause, you definitely have a short list in mind. Who that is, still don't know yet, but somebody as methodical as an institution like Texas A&M, they're clearly willing to pay to play. They just need to find the right guy.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Trey, any other thoughts on the Ohio State Michigan game? I don't know if we ever got your prediction.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with you guys again, just because I think you did. So another thing that's interesting. So I think it's Ohio State's got number 1 total defense. Michigan's number 2 total defense. So that's going to be that. Weather's 37 degrees. I believe you guys are 24th in total offense. They're 11th. But I'm gonna go back to the whole. There's a lot of distractions. They're not having the whole thing with the cheating thing. I think you guys got Marvin Harrison Jr., which is, of course, he can completely take over a game. If you guys can stop the run and don't have any terrible turnovers, I'm seeing you guys win, we'll say like 28-21, 28-24. And it's really interesting on the 3-point spread. But I'm gonna go with you guys because your defense is much improved. And then I just think they're distracted over there.
Well, and it opened up as a 5.5-point spread, so it's already gone down to 3.
That's right.
And my prediction was 32-20. What was your prediction, Kris?
24-21.
Ohio State, I assume.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think we're all in the Bucks.
I
hear you, man.
Scott, real quick.
Yeah, sure.
How many gadget plays do you think they're going to throw out at us? How many gadget plays is Michigan going to throw at us? Statue of Liberties, Philly specials, flea flickers, all that Pee Wee stuff.
Maximum of 2. I think they're going to try to go and they're going to try to pound the ball down our throats, and that's where we got to sell out to beat the run because you do have running backs that potentially could beat us. I would give you that. I would make JJ beat you, and then you have to adjust. Defenses look great this year. Let's finish the job. You know.
Hey, Weno, real quick question with you guys: is there any chance the loser of this can still get in the playoffs, or you think they're done?
It's going to be now next year, absolutely. Okay, next year, absolutely. I'm very much looking forward to our 12-team playoff. But right now, it just depends on what happens around you. You know, I think if Florida State loses, they're probably out. It's going to be interesting.
Got bumped back to number 5 with the updated polls a couple hours ago, an hour ago.
So it's going to be, I think, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Ohio State guy. I think with Michigan's schedule, I think it's if they lose, I think they're probably out unless it's a super close game and all this. They could say all this other stuff doesn't matter. I think it does. You know, there's other stuff that's going on. So I think Ohio State could slide back in, but there's going to have to be some chaos because if you have some other undefeated team and then you're comparing all these other one-loss teams and you know the question for you, Trey, is that if Texas wins out and Alabama beats Georgia and you know there's a couple undefeated teams. I'm talking about Florida State, let's just say Ohio State, and Washington wins out. Who gets that last spot?
Yeah, that is one thing. What I was definitely think like the loser's going to get knocked out, and there's a chance. I mean, if you look at it, let's just say Alabama beats us by a really close one, and Texas wins out. Oregon or Washington wins. One of you guys get in. The Florida State is kind of interesting. Would they, even if Bama wins out, keep a one-loss Bama? And you know Nick Saban will come up there on Sunday. You know, he'll give his whole spiel. But I think that will be really interesting. And then another guy sold it as, all right, so you're telling me Georgia, if they ended up winning 29 or 30, was it 29 straight, won 2 straight national titles, and then they were number 1 and lose like by a field goal to a really good Alabama team or a one-loss Alabama team, you're going to knock them all the way from number 1 to number 5. So I was like, that's interesting. But it's a lot of moving parts. It's going to be a lot of chaos, or it's tough this year. You know, there's not that like complete 4 that's in there, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
well, I will say this: I'm rooting for chaos outside of Ohio State.
Yeah, there you go.
but if Georgia wins, Ohio State wins, Florida State wins, and Washington wins, man, that there's your 4.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
I'd love to play Florida State in that first round with a backup quarterback there. I'd love that.
I'm sure you would.
I will say this right before we're about to go. The team that I fear the most, and they're hot, is Bo Nix is on fire, and they've got their defense is playing a lot better. To me, in Alabama, they're pretty dangerous right now. And of course, we got to play one on. But Oregon, to me, is kind of like they're kind of like that Ohio State. You don't want them to slide in number 4 from last year because I knew that was the worst matchup for us. But to me, Oregon, man, but Bo Nix, he's hot right now, in my opinion.
The only thing I'm gonna say about Florida State, man, if you remember, Ohio State won a national championship. Cardale Jones was their backup, actually their third string quarterback.
That's right.
So, you know, do I think Florida State's that team? I don't think they are. So, and I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. I think they're going to win the next 2 games. So it'll be interesting, man. It'll be even more fun when it's 12 next year. Can't wait.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys. Really appreciate you stopping by again. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share the Dawg House Podcast. And hopefully we'll have Angry Scott and Casual Kris on sometime soon.
Yes, sir.
Enjoyed it.
Good episodes. Thanks for having me, Trey.
All right, man. Go Dogs, go Bucks. Hope you guys pull it off.
See you, boys.
Bye-bye.
See ya.